Denver Broncos Mile High View. No commercials, no bullshit. The number one unauthorized authority on the Denver Broncos. We have an unorthodox pregame with Colby and me working again different hours, not being able to gel because this isn't our normal job, yet we seem to be the best at it. The national media didn't get it right. Vegas didn't get it right. And right now, the same national media that proclaimed the Broncos to be this juggernaut has them ranked either muddling in the middle. I don't know who said that. Was the first to say that. Or they have them like the seventh worst team in the NFL. You know, speaking of the national media getting it wrong and the 8 turd polishing platforms that, promised you the universe, but of course they can't hit the treetops. 7 years of that. People who blindly listen to that garbage, who said, oh, you guys don't know it. If you're right, I'll be back here. If you guys are right, we'll be back here to eat crow. Oh, don't worry. I'm like, oh, yeah. Yeah, we heard that for 7 years. And again, none of those morons, those off-season morons ever showed up, to say, hey, you guys really did. We had one guy that said, don't agree with what you're saying, but I can see where you're coming from now. Well, at least give that person credit. Again, do you want to be lied to? I guess these people are liars, and they need liars to listen to. So, we've just turned everything off, and so, there's just no reason to listen to a bunch of nonsense anymore. That's why we are the authority of the Denver Broncos, unofficially, because we're the only ones that get it right. All roads lead to what we're talking about eventually, whether, and it's not about us hating the Denver Broncos, okay? It's not about us hating it. We want the Broncos to be a great football team, but this was a problem that, like I said, Nathaniel Hackett and Willson inherited. Breaking down the film, I broke down film of San Francisco. I broke down film of the Broncos' last game. Where do I start? Let's start with the Broncos-Texans game. Just do a little recap here, what I was seeing. This time I specifically really honed in on, when I was allowed to watch the video, of the Denver Broncos offensive line and their offensive schematics using the all-22. Somebody said, there were wide open receivers of that. Now, I watched 3 quarters. I didn't see the 4th quarter, so I can't attest to that because I didn't get that far. From what I could see, Willson didn't have wide open receivers downfield. That's not exactly true. He did miss a couple of open receivers down in the middle of the field. And there was a wide open receiver. The problem was the offensive line broke down and he got sacked. What I'm seeing with the Denver Broncos offensive line, Colby brought to my attention poor blocking schematics by the Denver Broncos, where he said receivers, he didn't like the way receivers were used in blocking schemes. Now, there are receivers that can do it all. They can block and they can go out and catch. Unfortunately, the Broncos, Jerry Jeudy ain't that guy, neither is Hamilton. Matter of fact, the one touchdown they got with Schobert, the play before should have been called a hold call. So Kendall Hinton, who can't block shit, basically tackles this lineman. And you can see it for yourself. You go back, watch this is the play before the touchdown with Schobert, tight end. Schobert. You can laugh all you want. Right now, he's the best tight end on your team. Anyway, yeah, so you go back, you'll see Hinton basically tackles this guy, and why there wasn't a flag, I guess, is home cooking. I doubt that, they would even have that touchdown had they called that flag. Without a doubt, he was not just hanging on. He was hanging on, then tackled him, and there was no flag. In the blocking schematics using these wide receivers, it's been a disaster, at least what I see on film. These guys can't block shit. Maybe Cortland Sutton is your best, but they're going to have to come up with something to alleviate. Maybe these guys can block better further downfield, or I don't know, but they just can't. They cannot block around the line of scrimmage. It's just been a disaster if you bother to take the time and watch the film. Also, I don't like the way they pull. They do these awkward pulls. They had Reisner try to pull from the outside of the the front of the offensive line and just didn't. There was no fluidness to it, and he was so far away from three linebackers coming in. I think it was a running play, and three linebackers come in, and I think they just sacked the running back. They just got him behind the line of scrimmage. Reisner didn't even have a chance. Just poor schematics. Also, the way they're utilizing tight ends is again a lot like Shermer ball, where they have free runners coming in. I have to talk about the ghost of Pat Shermer walking the halls of Dove Valley still. It's part of that Elway stench that's still at Dove Valley. And I say that because what I'm about to talk about was justified ridiculously by the Elway posse. And I call the Elway posse former players that played with John Elway promoting this shit. And it's the ghost of Shermer, walking the hallways. It was third quarter play, and I'm going to start leaving time codes. And I apologize for that. I'm going to start putting down the time codes so people can look this up themselves. It was third quarter. It was a third down. 4 wide receivers. Not one of them went even to the sticks, to the yard marker for the first down. They're all at least 4 to 5 yards short of it. All of them. And there's every Texan DB just waiting for him. And the justification you get from these idiot players, former players, is you gotta try to get around the defender. And how about just do this? Go to the sticks. Just go to the sticks, for God's sakes. Go to the third down marker. Try that. That's what every team that's worth their salt does. God, maybe that worked in college. These are pros. They're going to tackle you. I'm sorry. The bad advice and the stench that's at Dove Valley. We should be beyond that. We should be playing smart football, not dumbass Elway posse football. Get at least 2 guys to run to the sticks, not one of them, 4 receivers. But guess what? It didn't matter because the offensive line broke down and they got Willson sacked on that play. Double jeopardy. Now let's mix in the 49ers. What I watched with the 49ers. Now, I believe that the Denver Broncos, if their offense can stay out on the field, move the ball, and although with the way this offensive line is, not just the offensive line, I mean the way the offensive line schematics, and this includes the wide receivers and tight ends, the schematics I don't like, and I don't like the matchup with the 49ers defense. However, if they somehow can stay on the field offensively and finish some drives, take time off the clock and finish drives, I think they got a chance against the 49ers. But defensively, and this is where everybody's misconception is, well, at least their defense didn't allow very many scores. Well, we got the Texans and we got Seattle, okay? I watched Seattle they did everything they could to not win that game against San Francisco in every capacity. Very mistake riddled. I noticed that their player personnel matched up fine, but they were, too busy just doing a lot of boneheaded things, which between the quarterback and his boneheaded, if I was Locke, I'd be breaking game film down. I thought player personnel, they matched up okay. The 49ers, what you're going to get from the 49ers when their offense is on the field, you're going to get packages of big-time running packages. Then you're going to get big-time tight end packages. Then you're going to get 4 or 5 wide receiver sets. Just boom. It's going to be all over the place. But they do it, how can I put this? They do it rhythmically. They hit you from every angle possible, and I just don't believe this defense can take it. I don't believe this defense can handle it. I believe this defense is going to get just thrashed. If the 49ers are allowed to, multiple times on the field and able to get established, it'll be game over. I mean, there'll be no way the Broncos will be able to keep up with their defense getting thrashed. So this is going to be a very difficult game for the Denver Broncos. There's way too much emphasis on Russell Wilson, way too much emphasis on the head coach, and not enough emphasis on player personnel and not enough emphasis on the schematics of what's going on. I think that based off the film I'm watching, between what I've watched the last 2 weeks of the Denver Broncos, I think San Francisco's offense is just licking their chops to just destroy this defense. And I don't care if Surtain was in there, and I don't care if Justin Simmons was. It wouldn't even matter. Nobody, it's really funny. We bring all the points up that nobody wants to listen to. Everybody's shocked. Why? I don't know. Because all we want to do is make them the team better, and you're going to need player personnel around Russell Wilson to make that happen. Plus, yes, you're going to have to, in my opinion, so far, get better coaching. You need a revamp. You need a system in place. And I don't know how many times we say this till we're blue in the face. You need an identity. You need to be able to have the best scouts, the best coaches to get the best out of that identity, bring in the players, develop the players, and start building something that if you finally get your quarterback, you got to spend all that money. You already know how to bring people in and develop it. I was going to say something to Colby about this. It seems to me with these princess quarterbacks getting paid, princess wide receivers getting all this money and not enough money to go around, NFL is kind of being forced. If you're going to be a good team in the NFL, you're almost going to have to be like a good college team, a good college program, excuse me. You're going to have to be like a good college program. You're going to have to know how to bring in the right people. Well, again, know your identity and go and scout and bring in and develop and then attract better prospects, this kind of thing. And that's the way I see it. The good teams in the NFL, we highlighted the Bills. We said that they're destroying everybody that, because their depth. It's not about. It really is very little about Josh Allen. He's a part of that, but it's a bigger part is how they built that juggernaut. Kansas City's the same kind of way. But nobody in Bronco country, Elway created these fan base to just want quick fixes, Band-Aids. Don't worry, it's the Raiders of the 90s all over again. Raiders of the 90s were trying to get back to those 70s glories. Those 70 and early 1980 glory days. Oh, if we just get this one piece, we're set. Don't worry. Yeah, I just don't see this team being like the Bills, for instance, or Kansas City for a long, long time, and it has so much else to do than just a quarterback. Is San Francisco, let's go back to San Francisco, are they beatable? Yes, they are beatable. Yes, the Broncos could beat them. Is it likely? Probably not. I don't like what I'm seeing schematically with the offensive line. I think it's impeding the offense. And when I mean line, I don't mean just the linemen. What I'm talking about is how the wide receivers are used in blocking, how they're pulling the guards. I was watching how they're pulling. I don't really like what they're doing. It's creating a lot of free runners. And San Francisco, if there are free runners there, it's gonna be a long day for the Broncos because they won't be able to do anything offensively. And that offense for the San Francisco matches up really well in how they could attack the Denver defense. And the cat really will be out of the bag at that time. If the Broncos can't keep themselves on the field and keep the San Francisco from getting into a rhythm or getting onto the field a lot, if they can't do that, everything's going to get exposed. The ineptitude of the offense is even going to be worse. It ain't going to just be red zone. You're going to probably see 3 and outs, a lot of them, and you don't want that. If you get that offense I can't say this enough, for San Francisco is going to throw everything in the kitchen sink, and and believe me, the defense will not have an answer for it. And like we were saying, once one team relentlessly goes after that Bronco linebacking relentlessly, it's game over. Everybody's going to start doing it. And especially when they get in a jam and they need to get out of a jam, that'll be a go-to. And we're not doing this because we hate the Broncos, but, we're not into lying to people, bullshitting people. We just can only tell it like it is, and it's not popular. It's just the way it is. Like I said, if the Denver Broncos can stay on the field offensively, kind of like they did with Seattle, long drives but they'll have to finish those drives. They have to finish the drives. But if they can finish the drives and sustain long drives and take time off the clock so they keep the 49ers offense off the clock, it could bode very well, and they actually could win the game. I'm not saying that San Francisco is unstoppable, but there's only one way really to stop it. That defense of the Broncos ain't going to stop that offense. They're going to throw the kitchen sink at that defense, and they will exploit it. They know this ain't the Texans, by the way, or Seattle, stumbling Seattle, who actually Seattle, man, player personnel wise, they matched up pretty well, but they just, like I said, they were too busy, making boneheaded mistakes, which really cost them the game. But I don't think player personnel wise, the Broncos even really match up all that well. This, could be a surprise for the Broncos, kind of get on track kind of thing. And if it's not that, I just feel that this game's going to be a disaster. If they can't, even if they got a tough loss, but still it was like close, and I know people don't like losses, but it would be better than just a complete shellacking up and down. At least they'd be kind of getting on the right track. But again, like we said in the beginning of this, before the season, it's still just going to be a team muddling in the middle. You're going to get what you get, and you can't get upset.